Are you aware if anyone else from the press is doing something else? Not aware. Okay. All right. Well, we will get the press conference started. I'll have Wade say a few words first, but my name is Sam Wagner. I am the Ag and Food Field Organizer of the Dakota Resource Council. We are a member-driven organization that promotes rural sustainability in North Dakota. And in this case, we are standing up for the people that are being affected by large agricultural operations such as the Riverview Dairy. We have just finished our hearing and we wanted to bring some people up to have comments about that. But first, just to talk a little bit about the overarching problem, Quade Brown is here.
Hello, I'm Quade Brown. I'm 17 and a senior at Moorhead High School. Moorhead is along the Red River, a city in which the runoff and pollutants into the Red River through Riverview LLC will be affected. CAFO, or centralized animal feeding operations, disproportionately and unequivocally cause water pollution and land runoff. This is a known fact. Massive, wide-scale animal feeding operations cause water pollutants at a rate which disproportionately accounts for a percentage increase in the already 43% of all nationwide carbon outputs that are caused specifically by cattle operations. Manure storage alone accounts for a nearly 26% increase in all forms of carbon outputs that our entire country goes over, just through dairy operations themselves. It is imperative that we have restrictions on the type of pollutants caused by this, or else, simply, carbon outputs will continue to increase at an ever-growing population. But sadly, we don't just need to look at nationwide statistics as to why these things are bad. We see real-world examples from our communities as to why CAFOs lead to environmental destruction. Take Morris. Previously, a Riverview LLC farm had a capacity of 8,000 cows. In a proposed increase which raises to 18,855 cattle, it meant that 75% of the Morris community's water would be entirely used through this. It also means that 250 million pounds of additional manure would be stored. This is devastating to a small community like Morris. The planning and commission of areas like Morris or here in Herbert means that fundamentally, there isn't large metropolitan areas like in other CAFOs to bear the cost or the environmental catastrophes of this. So, what this means is that the entire environmental toll is faced by the local community in which these farms sit. Whether it be Morris or here, the environmental catastrophes stay the same. However, it's a little more deeper than just environmental concerns. There's a real-world physical impact for the people who live here. Ultimately, in areas where CAFOs set up, we see a nearly unilateral 26% decrease in home value that are near CAFOs. In studies of areas that have them, any house in a 3-mile radius saw an average of a 6.6% decrease in value. Homes that were 1/10 of a mile from CAFOs saw an 88% decrease in value. We cannot follow the same example of other cities that have CAFOs. In Des Moines, Iowa, not only did they need to set up millions of dollars of water treatment just to ensure that water was drinkable, but also residents pay $16,000 a day on average just to keep it up. Ultimately, it is the taxpayers who will always be paying for the corporate mistakes that we can prevent in these next coming months. If we cannot trust the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality to accurately report these statistics, what exactly can we trust them to do? It is rare that we get such a clear and shut case of small town hardworking people facing against a corporation which wants nothing more than money, even if it needs pollutants. No matter the court decision, these are the facts. Pollution by CAFOs will continue to increase. And I hope simply that we can prevent a small chunk of this and protect small town hardworking people.
Thank you very much, Quade. I'd like to invite up to the front now, Danny and Scott, to provide some remarks on their arguments.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, well, yeah, I think I said most of what I needed to say in the argument today. This is a 25,000 cow concentrated animal feeding operation. We're not talking about a normal dairy farm, and the pollution impacts that this operation would have on Trail County and on downstream communities all the way down to Canada are immense. More waste will be produced by this facility than the waste produced by North Dakota's entire human population in a year. I just think that that statistic is so mind-blowing, and just goes to show why DEQ has not done enough here in treating Herbert Dairy like any other dairy to protect citizens and to protect water quality. Thanks, Scott.
Well, you all heard Danny give the detailed legal reasons that the state's permit is deficient. The bottom line is it's legally deficient because the state is required to issue a permit that prevents pollution, and everything you heard them talk about upstairs as the solution to that was after the fact, after there's been pollution. And that's why this permit is legally deficient and needs to be sent back for further review.
And this is, as Herbert Dairy is the first operation of this size in the area, what happens with this permit will serve as precedent for how North Dakota is going to handle more operations like this, as we know that they are coming down the pipe. And so, that's why we're doing everything that we can today to stop this facility, not only for the pollution impacts, but as Quade said, for the impacts that it has on rural communities and small dairy farmers that who are just trying to make an ends meet. And I appreciate everybody being here today.
Thank you for coming.
And then finally, I'd like to invite to the podium Vern Thompson for a few remarks if he would like to give them. Sure.
First of all, I'm Vern Thompson, and I am running for the North Dakota Agriculture Commissioner. And I was making some notes during the oral hearings, and first of all, I want to say that we wouldn't even be here today if not for Doug Goring and the current Ag Commissioner and the legislature for weakening North Dakota's anti-corporate farming. And that was back in 2023. Don't forget that. That is very important. We wouldn't be here without that weakening of the law. Because now limited liability partnerships can own from that law 160 acres or smaller for dairy operations, for cattle operations, for hog operations, and all those things. And that's where you get the concentration. So that's where the issue comes in. Common sense, I'm just a farm boy. Common sense tells me that you should ask some questions if there's 25,000 concentrated cattle in a floodplain. Think about that in a floodplain. The reason I bring that up is I know a little bit about water. I led the North Dakota local level for the Devil's Lake flood disaster. And what we had to do to solve the problems, to build outlets to take water out of Devil's Lake, we had to meet over a couple years plus with everybody, every water board, every county commission, every city that gets water from the rivers, Cheyenne and the Red River, all the way up to Canada. We dealt with North Dakota, Minnesota, and Canada because we couldn't have sulfates coming out of Devil's Lake which, be honest with you, as a farm boy, there was fertilizer coming into the lake, creating some of those sulfates. We could not have sulfates go down the river and all the way up to Canada without making sure that nobody was gonna get harmed. I don't necessarily see this happening with this operation that was in front of the judge today. And our goal back then was to do this without getting sued. And guess what? We did, because we went and met with everybody, all the people, all the cities, all the water districts, all the politicians on both sides of, all the way to Washington, D.C., and including Canada. I am surprised that there isn't more knowledge today from potential effects from Hillsboro going north to Grand Forks, to Canada, all the way up to Lake Winnipeg. I haven't heard anything, but maybe I'm missing the picture in regards to that. But the case seems like it's pretty clear cut to me, but it's up to the judge. And if I support industrial development, I support agriculture development, but it's got to be done the right way. And it's got to be done in a place where you're not going to harm people. You're not going to harm people from both sides of a border or all the way to Canada. So I was here to listen and learn, and I can assure you that I am not going to be supporting any more relaxing of regulations that we have currently. And I'm a co-op kid, okay? I'm supporting tough anti-corporation laws. Last thing I'll say is I did meet with I've been all over the state of North Dakota. I did meet with a former dairy farmer from further west of here. And he had common sense when he shared with me. He said, I'm not milking cows anymore because for my, I don't know if it was 100 to 200 head that he had that he was milking. And he said, I don't have it anymore because the regulations were tight and we were having to meet some really high standards. He wasn't complaining about it other than the fact that he just couldn't afford it anymore. And he says, after I got out of the dairy, now the state and the federal government are relaxing the standards. And now we have a $25,000 head operation that won't meet the state standards, the federal standards that I had to meet. So there's an imbalance in fairness there. But other than that, that's all I got. But thank you.
Yeah. I'd just like to deliver a few closing remarks and some of the things that I looked at during this trial. In a lot of ways, we are dealing with an unprecedented facility here. And the argument that a facility of this size won't cause any issues, that just seems it seems to be extremely ludicrous, in my opinion, that you cannot have a 25,000 head operation, which is many times, magnitudes larger than any current dairy operation running within the state. It's even twice as big as the one in Abercrombie. And I will say, in some cases, I felt that the defense was almost as insane as it was creative, stating that manure is not a waste product. It's bold, I will give you that, stating that it's only waste until the nutrients are expended, and then the excess nutrients are waste. I don't think that any person here would like to have these nutrients thrown on them or have to drink water with these nutrients in them until it becomes waste. And finally, the claim that the manure will plug up the lagoon, the clay liner of the lagoon eventually is another highlight of that case that I thought was very interesting. One, let's even assuming it is true, how much waste are you willing to let through those liners until the manure plugs it up? Is my response to that. But I would like to thank you all for coming out here, and if there are any questions from the press, we would be more than happy to answer them. But this concludes that press conference. Thank you very much.